That's what you should have that in the background, Doug.
Yeah.
Keep it casual.
I could put a fire up on that TV right there.
All right, we are live.
I have a fireplace app.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Higher Ed Live. I am a Seth Odell impersonator. My name is Doug Gapinski. I'm the guest host for the night. And as you may know, Higher Ed Live is a weekly live show exclusively focused on the world of higher education web. I'm Doug Gapinski. I'm a strategist at mStoner. I am also the firm's lead in responsive design and mobile, and I have some friends with me today. I'm going to ask them to do their own introductions, and we'll start with Brett Pollack. Brett, over to you.
Thanks, Doug. My name is Brett Pollack, director here of the Campus Web Office at UC San Diego. Basically, I am the director of a web team, a centralized web team for Administrative Computing Group. We're responsible for the campus web content management system, our mobile offering here at UCSD, and of course, a lot of the work that we've been doing over the past year has been in on mobile and responsive design, so it keeps us busy.
Fantastic. And we have another gentleman joining us, Nick DeNardis, a good friend and colleague of mine. Nick, will you do the audience the favor of introducing yourself?
Not a problem. Thank you, Doug. I'm Nick DeNardis. I'm the Associate Director of Web Communications at Wayne State University in Detroit. I also host a video blog called EDU Checkup, where I review higher education sites from the perspective of a first-time visitor, which in the end gives the sites kind of an A through F kind of rating overall on their visuals, information, and code. And I also maintain a blog curate a blog of EDU snippets, which are kind of like best pieces of higher education websites, not necessarily the whole design, but just those pieces that I think are well thought out.
Thank you. We have, last but not least, Erik Runyon, another good friend and a bit of a responsive wizard behind the development of the Notre Dame site. Erik, will you do your introduction?
Hello, I'm Erik Runyon, University of Notre Dame. I'm the technical lead there for the University Communications Marketing Group. We work as sort of an agency within the university. People within the universities, colleges, and schools can use us if they want to, but they do not have to. We are in charge of the campus CMS, nd.edu, our mobile sites, as well as several other 100 websites on campus.
Right on. Well, gents, thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks for being ready to share your experience. I am super excited about just chit-chatting about these topics. I think that most people know that responsive and mobile web have really been hot topics throughout the year. This idea that we can deliver web experiences on all devices is really an important one and a strategic one. And I certainly think that all three of you bring something to the table in terms of what you've done and what you have to say about these topics. So before we dive into that, I have a few sponsorships that I need to go through. Also wanted to say thank you to Seth for letting me guest host tonight, and thank you to ED Universe Media as well. The sponsors for the evening are Scavenger. We're supported by Scavenger. They're offering specifically for higher ed is secure and scalable with great tools for flexibility and an awesome user community. They were ranked highest ranked CMS in customer satisfaction in a 2010.edu Guru survey. So if you need a CMS, check them out at omniupdate.com. Last up, we have Integral. Last sponsor. Check out their blog, Integral Insights, for posts on admissions marketing, student engagement, and social media in higher education. We're tweeting the link to their blog right now. So, that's it for sponsorships. What we want to do now is circle back to these topics of mobile and responsive. I think I've talked to Erik and Brett both on the mStoner blog before about these topics, and one of the things I always try to do is lead with the idea of why this is so important to institutions. Anyone want to address that topic before we ask more specific questions?
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is Brett. Doug, I think it happened because things changed so quickly. Now, if you look at smartphones, they really kicked into high gear back in 2007 with the iPhone. And so once people started gravitating towards these devices, we basically haven't looked back, right? There's mobile devices sold, more mobile devices sold than laptops and desktops combined, and there's almost as many connected phones in the world as there are people. So if you take that into consideration, obviously we're clearly in a new age of computing. So we've got to make sure at higher ed that we're supporting the devices that our students, faculty, and staff are using to access our web properties. So that's why I think it's kind of been the trend at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It seems to me like 5 years ago, breaking into mobile, you really had to make a case to leadership about why you wanted dollars to dedicate to this. And now it seems to be really a soft sell. It seems to be really easy for leadership to understand that this is mission critical for getting the message out there to audiences.
I also think like it's almost a no sell, like because the barrier to being mobile is so low now, that the devices that the students, faculty, and staff have support it so ubiquitously that, and the tool sets from a browser standpoint are just there, that there is nothing, it's almost expected now.
I agree. Erik, have you had the same experience at Notre Dame?
Yeah, from my viewpoint, in the past we had to make the case to build these separate mobile dedicated sites, but with the advent of responsive web design, really it's just become another just basic tool that we use when we build a website. It's not an optional sort of thing. It's just how you should be building. So I mean, it's like when people moved away from tables and started using CSS, people are moving away from 960 fixed width sites and moving into responsive. Is just the new way of building sites.
Right on. So tell me a little bit, each of you, if you don't mind, about what you've been working on in 2012. So this could be ongoing rollouts of new standards. This could be launching department level responsive sites. Erik, maybe you talk a little bit about the relaunch in the first quarter of this year, but just highlights from each of your institutions that you've been up to with regards to mobile and responsive this year.
Sure. Well, as last year, obviously we started out with building adaptive sites, and then we started retrofitting a few sites, including nd.edu, to be responsive. In 2012, though, we've actually gotten to the point where everything that we build is responsive. It's just the methodology that we work within now. And the reception from our clients has been fantastic. They absolutely love it. So yeah, I mean we've got the workflow down pretty well now, to where we feel extremely comfortable building this way and building mobile first. And so now we're really trying to focus more on the performance level.
Nice, yeah. I want to circle back to that performance topic and maybe talk a little bit about process and how you're adjusting. One of the things that I think is really interesting is talking to you guys about the fact that you don't even show Photoshop comps anymore. You've moved away from that model and towards presenting prototypes that are shown in browser. But let's hear from Brett and Nick about their experiences with mobile and responsive this year.
Yeah, so basically we kind of forayed into responsive design beginning in fall of 2011 when we embarked on a project to refresh the look and feel of the campus homepage. One of the things that we were doing with that project is we were doing a lot of analytic research, and we were noticing a huge uptick in mobile traffic over the course of the year, to the tune of about 0.5% per month in terms of the increase in mobile devices accessing the campus homepage. So we thought this trend was pretty compelling. And if you talk about buy-in, I mean, that certainly was something that we didn't have to sell very hard to our campus web steering committee. They saw the analytics and said, gosh, whatever you got to do to make sure this thing looks pretty, on mobile devices, let's do it. So a few of us started reading the Ethan Marcotte's book on responsive design and then keeping up with other online resources. We felt like, incorporating this into the project would be certainly worthwhile. And so we kind of forayed into it, really not having a lot of experience. And our campus homepage launched with responsive design in January of this year. And after that, basically, because we support the content management system, we got requests from all over the place, academic units that are using the CMS to power their websites. They're like, well, if the campus homepage has it, we want to have it too. So we started retrofitting our templates to use responsive design. And we kind of took more of a careful approach with this. I know there's other folks that have kind of taken a big bang approach that kind of control things on a more centralized level. But we've been pretty careful with it. We've been kind of doing a handful of sites at a time and then basically retrofitting any kind of nuances that we see aren't working well on the smaller resolutions. And that's just been a really good learning experience. So for us, it's more kind of taking this approach where we want to make as many web properties as possible responsive. And then, of course, like Erik was saying, any new stuff we do, I know responsive design is baked into our processes.
Nice. I kind of want to, I guess, a little bit with Brett's kind of way of, I guess, process. Ours was a little bit slower from, we really haven't we've dived into responsive a little bit slower than most have, and it's mainly because of the process and kind of the way that our sites are controlled. We, like Erik, part of central marketing, can oversee, or central web communications oversee a lot of sites, over 400, and they're always constantly migrating into either some different form or another. And for us, we couldn't take that big bang approach. We had to start doing them slowly, and we actually started introducing them to our newer clients only kind of earlier this year, and at the same time we were learning the process of how to make our clients, and which are the departments around campus, successful from a content standpoint, so that they understood, what it really means to have a successful web presence, not just to publish a page and have it, look the same in every case, to actually make actionable things and use the content on those pages to be successful. And then we were kind of working through the responsive workflow to get their actual call to actions and the things that they wanted to be successful working at every resolution. And so we didn't go in and retrofit any of our sites. We kind of just left the ones that are out there as kind of fixed with sites as they are, because the way that our cycle works, within a year or two, they're going to be back doing a redesign, and we'll have them in a responsive kind of new look at that point. And so from us, it was kind of like a fresh eyes look on it with the actual clients. The other thing that we actually just started doing is meeting with the rest of the campus kind of web developers who don't necessarily do kind of more marketing sites. They do more kind of IT and or current student like tools that students have to use on a regular basis throughout their day-to-day interactions, and coming up with a standardized kind of template that all of these kind of IT folks that are across campus who may have traditionally gone from like a core systems kind of background and just made like a front-end web form to interact with stuff, to really get them into the same look and feel and a responsive kind of look, so that way students are interacting with the same, what feels like the same tool sets all across campus, regardless of who is creating them. So that's kind of, we're kind of hitting both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I like that. So one of the things that we've noticed as a shop is how, touching back to some of the ideas that you all mentioned, is the idea of how you share this with clients and how you educate clients about how things have changed. I think from a client perspective, they often know that sites are meant to work on multiple devices, but they don't know anything about what the word responsive means. They don't know anything about the back end. And what we've been noticing as a shop is that we started with the development end because that was the piece that was most critical for adjusting sites and getting them to work on multiple devices. But as time has gone on, we've found that the old prototyping methods don't work as well. The old methods for sharing the comps don't work as well. and even usability changes radically. And I'm curious if you all have had the same experiences, since I know you've been on the kind of cutting edge with the development work. Have you noticed that responsive practice is changing these other parts of web redesigns?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I'd say from us, it's definitely changed our design process. You kind of touched on it, I think, with Erik, was that, getting out of Photoshop and getting directly into development. I'd say, it's breaking outside of the fixed width barriers, which has been a little tougher from us because we've actually started kind of down this road of doing graceful degradation versus progressive enhancement. Some of the newer projects, we are using progressive enhancement. So if you're starting with comps that have kind of been vetted at the 960 approval area, and then you're trying to now design outside of that, that's something that's a change for folks. So not only has it really kind of changed processes and how we start development, I'd say, but also looking at the skill set and the makeup of our web team, everyone's got to be more in tune with kind of the way front-end development works now. Everyone from the UX designer all the way through to the back-end programmers, everyone needs to be more aware of how to use CSS and JavaScript, and basically all the things that those technologies now can bring to the table, because it really just changes the way you can lay out web pages and how you can use interaction. I mean, it's not like you need to use images in the same ways that you did before. You can use CSS in many cases for this. So all of our development needs to be aware, all of our developers need to be aware of all these capabilities that not only responsive design, but CSS3, HTML5 brings to the table.
So Erik or Nick, you want to weigh in on how you've seen design process or prototyping or testing change?
Yeah, our over the past couple months, our process has changed quite a bit, and it's something we are definitely taking a careful approach with. We spent quite a bit of time talking through how we need to be working in this new responsive workflow. And so for the past couple of projects, it essentially starts out with our information architect doing a site audit for the client. And then at that point, our director, our designer, Philip Zastrow, and the information architect will get together with the client and essentially put together what is content priority list to say these are the items that are going to be on the homepage. This is the order of importance, and essentially drawing a whiteboard stack of showing, top down, which kind of reflects how it would look on a mobile device. And so that really gets the client thinking about, priorities and the order that the content should be in. And from there, we can start discussing, how things will reformat. And it's really an educational process for the client as well, because we're talking through, screen sizes and devices and how things are going to have to react as these things change. And so once we get past that point, our designers will put together, I forget what exactly they call them, but they're kind of like mood boards, but they're live in browser type mood boards. I think they were started up and popularized by Sparkbox out of Ohio. So they'll put together a couple versions of those, and it has things like the masthead, type, colors, just the basic styles of the site. So it's not like a site. It's not like a build site.
It's
just
style
styles. Yeah,
style
style
tile, but inside the browser and not
Correct.
in Photoshop?
Yes, inside a browser. And they actually use our base style sheet that we start all sites with when they build this. So that way when we get past the point where the client says, okay, this is what I want, any changes that they've requested have gone through, then the designer can go straight into the build. Because we already have a number of templates built out for our CMS. So at that point, it's just a matter of taking those styles that they've already built out in the browser, bringing it into the CMS along with the templates that they need, and they can just start building the site. So it's really speeding up that portion of the workflow a lot. So it's definitely a change from the traditional waterfall approach that we've had.
Yeah, our process is pretty similar to yours, Erik, except the the wireframing we do in browser. The designer does it in browser with the CSS framework foundation. It was just the easiest for them to kind of adapt to their kind of mental process, to kind of show those kind of, instead of, I guess, start on a whiteboard, but then go into the actual browser to see it on screen and to see how someone would interact with it. But then we kind of still do a hybrid of taking those the major breakpoints from those browser wireframes and putting the style on top of them. We haven't gone fully to like style tiles like you have, Erik.
Nice. Well, thanks, guys, for highlighting some of the ways you've adjusted process to deal with responsive design and the kind of popularization of it over the last year. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about influences or sites you like, resources that have really influenced your work, even outside of higher ed? So anything that you dog ear as an influence for mobile or responsive?
Obviously, Ethan Marcotte's book, the one that kicked it off for a lot of people, including myself. Since then, a good book is Implementing Responsive Design by Tim Kadlec. And then also following the Breaking Development Twitter stream and the RWD Twitter stream are some great ones to get a lot of great resources.
Building on the Twitter streams, I would say just following the hashtag responsive design is another great way. If you just kind of put that up on your tweet deck, there's great stuff that's coming out of there too that I find new and educational every day.
Yeah, I also kind of just like to browse either Speaker Deck or SlideShare for responsive sites or responsive talks, and just kind of flip through the slides to see what people are presenting on and what their kind of newest and more experimental topics are.
I would say the last thing, just for inspiration, the site Media Queries is a great resource too.
Yeah, good stuff all the way around. Also a big fan of Dave Olson's blog. That's dmolson.com for all matters responsive and mobile. And we had originally invited Dave to be on the show tonight, but he couldn't make it due to a family engagement. So that's our little shout out to him.
Family thing.
I know. We're his priority.
Actually, speaking of Dave, Smashing Magazine just came out with a book called The Mobile Book, and Dave has a chapter in that. So that's going to be some of my Christmas break reading.
Yeah, that's a great point, and a great plug for a good resource. I have a digital copy of it already and haven't had a chance to dive in too deeply, but Dave is shoulder to shoulder with some of the great developers and designers out there right now, guys like Trent Walton, Brad Frost, Jeremy Keith. So he's moving on up in the world. So support your .edu friends by buying the mobile book from the Smashing Magazine. Let's talk a little bit about how I feel like responsive gets a lot of the attention right now with regards to devices, and I think with good reason. It's a strategy that minimizes assets, and it's a plan that works for a majority of small clients. But I feel like sometimes the word responsive is sort of overpowering when we think about the technology and this idea of meeting people on whatever device they're on. Are there other mobile opportunities that institutions should be aware of if they were thinking about pulling together a comprehensive mobile strategy?
I'll jump in. I still think mobile apps delivered through app stores still have cachet. I feel like a lot of folks, a lot of users expect to go to the app store to get your content or your information. And so having a presence in the app store, I think, is still very warranted. So we noticed that just based on our analytics, we have an app in the iPhone, iOS app stores, and also the Android Google Play stores. And just basically what those apps are just pointers back to our MDOT site, m.ucsd.edu. And so we noticed based on analytics that over half the traffic to m.ucsd.edu comes through the apps in the app stores. And that's still very much the case. That trend has not changed over the last couple of years. So it's definitely not going away anytime soon. So we're continuing to enhance the presence in the App Store. Like for example, with the new iPhone 5, it's a little bit taller, so we got to make sure our app in the App Store is working with the taller screen. So we're retrofitting our app to do that now. So again, if you're diving in, we still very much, at least I still very much think the presence in the App Stores is still warranted if you don't have it yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. We have the same situation, an actual native app in Android and iOS, and we see 50% or so traffic still, because it pulls in our mobile site, and about 50% that we do see a little, like probably more. I think it's around 60%. I don't know if it's much over 60%, but more traffic to our mobile map through the app than from our MDOT site. I think it's just because it's a little bit easier to get to. The other benefit that we've actually kind of cut the line with our MDOT and our apps, where anything that requires authentication requires the app. So the app does all the authentication for students and for employees and stuff like that, and that's how they can get their grades, their courses, and any resources like that. Like even their we have like a student card that they can put money on, how much money's on there and stuff like that. We don't offer that through the mobile site, but only through the app. And I guess the last benefit from an app standpoint that we've really started to now take advantage of is push alerts. And so we had a huge push a few years ago to get all these students, cell phone numbers for text messaging and for emergencies and stuff like that. And it didn't really catch on, but we found more students are apt to put in, install the app and allow push alerts, so that we can push both grades and all that stuff to them, plus emergency messages if we need to, and we don't even need their phone number.
Yeah, I think both of those are great mobile opportunities. SMS text alerts. I know some institutions deploy text alerts for application status. So letting prospective students know if they've been accepted or where they are in the admission cycle. I think, Brett, you and Nick had excellent points about apps and how those still have a niche. What about custom utilities like Laundry View or Scavenger, or have you guys played around with QR codes? Any experiences in those areas?
Now is when I want Nick to talk about his QR code stats.
Yeah, that's what I'm pulling up right now. So QR codes, we've played around with them, but we, in the end, we just have not been able to justify, even, if they're 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, the space that they take up on any print and or digital or whatever material they're on. The stats behind how many people are actually scanning the QR code compared to, we have a standardized format, so we required anyone who printed a QR code on campus to also include a short URL below it. And both of them are from our short URL system, and it allowed us to see how many people were using each of those to get to their destination. And we were seeing a 400 to 1, difference in how many people just typed in the URL in their browser compared to scanning the QR code. And so for us, it just isn't even worth the space on whatever you're printing it on or publishing it on.
So Nick, can I summarize that as QR codes suck and nobody uses them?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that stat. I keep telling, when people ask me about QR codes, I always tell them that as soon as it's natively built into the phone's camera, then talk to me about it and we'll reconsider. But until then,
for sure,
I don't want to mess with them.
Any other anecdotes about custom services? Does anybody have Laundry View or Scavenger or kind of a third-party utility, maybe a bus tracker, that sort of thing?
We've got a bus tracker. It's a vendor app. Yeah, but it's basically incorporated into the app in that it's essentially just a link off of there. And if you got the app downloaded, you can always get back to m.ucsd.edu home from there. So for us, it's a vendor. Admissions recently contracted with a group to build a campus tour mobile app. And so, from our standpoint, we're trying to minimize maybe the amount of apps that people are building on campus that are separate from kind of the core UCSD app. Because if you got these proliferation of different, subdivisions, departments coming up with their own apps, it's just kind of, lose the importance of the core central UCSD app. So that was kind of the whole impetus for the mobile web framework that allows campus units to build and host their own mobile apps that all look the same. And so now, if you look at the amount of UC campuses that are using that, University of California, we've got 6 out of the 10 UC campuses using our mobile framework that was originally developed by UCLA, so shout out to UCLA. In any case, I go back to the fact that any group, any IT group that wants to build a mobile app on campus can use the framework, regardless of whether it's .NET or Java or whatever technology they use to build. From an end user perspective, they can't tell which one is built and maintained by one department versus another. So there's really no reason to go and do and build your own thing. And so we're hoping to minimize the amount of kind of proliferation of apps.
Yeah, I think that's a sound strategy and good for asset management, making it simple. So where do you, Erik mentioned an idea earlier that I wanted to circle back on, and that's the idea of web performance. And I think that what that gets to is where things are headed. What's going to be big next year and what's kind of coming into play right now. Web performance is huge. Can you guys speak to your experiences with that idea? Maybe tell the audience a little bit about what that means in a mobile context, and then just other trends that you predict in 2013 for mobile and responsive.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to, because I like to yell about this one a little bit. Statistics show that a lot of sites that are coming out as responsive are essentially taking these large desktop experiences and cramming them down into a mobile device and calling it responsive and mobile friendly. But in my opinion, if you're throwing 5 megabytes worth of website at a mobile phone, that's not necessarily mobile friendly. It may look good, but the performance might be terrible. So definitely my focus over the next year is what techniques and tools can we use to make sure that our sites are both, they download quickly, they perform well, and just work well across all the different devices. And that's where progressive enhancement comes in. It's not a new topic by any means, but it's something that we definitely need to be focusing on. Because as far as higher ed homepages go, the average is still about 1.4 megabytes for a university homepage that's responsive, which is too large in my opinion. A number of sites have, over the past few months, really worked hard and gotten them down, which is encouraging, but I'd like to see a lot more doing that.
Yeah, Nick and Brett, predicted trends for 2013, or would you like to comment on web performance as a trend?
I'll jump in on that, and I know I kind of might be in the minority on this one too, in terms of the cutting edge of responsive design. I know we're kind of referring to responsive design and using server-side components to kind of offload some of the work from the browser to the server. And basically only kind of serving up the right-sized images and assets based on the device type. Kind of my thought on the matter is to really balance between pushing out, just overall smaller file sizes versus trying to do a lot of detection up front. I guess just based on my anecdotal experience and just kind of working with others, I feel like maybe sometimes trying to do a lot of detection up front, that may actually hinder the overall user experience versus just trying to get your file size down as small as possible for all the devices. So that's just my own personal opinion on that one, is just to try, as Erik is mentioning, just to try to make sure that you're just pushing out something that is optimized for everything all the way from up to the desktop down to the smallest device.
And unfortunately, a lot of clients and designers are working hard against us in this category. with the trend of really large carousels or large desktop or large backgrounds. I built a site Thursday that required a very large background image of the Notre Dame Stadium. And as much as I tried, that single image that's sort of a decorative piece easily made up more than half of the total download of the site, which is very unfortunate. But I compressed that image as much as I could to make it still look good, and it was still extremely large. So, I mean, it's a battle between aesthetics and development to try to get these things smaller.
Yeah,
I think.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry about that.
I had to leave for a second. I think making smaller files on the just kind of overall is definitely a great approach, and we've been trying to take that with our CMS to try to compress the files that are being uploaded, because the people who, even though as much as we train them, the end users adding the content to the CMS often use whatever assets they can find. And sometimes they're straight, photos from, the photographer's camera at 300 DPI, and they just kind of try with the tools that they have to cut them down. And it isn't, they're not the ones, they don't know what it means to kind of optimize the photos for the web and stuff. And so we've tried to use as many tools within our CMS and write as many tools into our CMS that that reduce those sizes and make that overall.
Sorry, and to Brett's point about server-side versus client-side detection, there are some large corporations doing some great work with just progressive enhancement, not relying on server-side detection. The BBC's responsive mobile site, for instance, one of their guys gave a talk at Breaking Development in this last fall about how they're doing their work, and it's all progressive enhancement. They do like certain checks for support. I believe there's 3 different checks that they look for, and progressively enhance based on those to know what they can throw at the client. And apparently it works really well for them, and they're able to keep the file sizes down pretty well doing it that way. I believe his name's Tom Maslin. I don't remember. I follow him on Twitter, but I can't remember his name.
All right. To chime in my own predictions for 2013, I think that development really moved the needle first. People needed to make it work first. I think that there's still, prototyping is still going to be a hot topic. You all mentioned style tiles and Ben Callahan's responsive prototypes. It seems to me that most shops are developing their own methodology for that, and I think we're going to see some methodologies emerge as the main contenders over the next couple of years. Same goes for testing. We've been adjusting our own testing methods in-house to try to make sure that we get responsive sites in front of different devices. So it's making sure that if you do build a responsive site and you're doing usability testing, you're putting that in front of audiences on a mobile device as well as on a desktop site. But this is new, and there's not a lot of great tools out there to help you adjust for the methodology. So the development right now is the cutting edge. It's kind of the crest of the wave, and I think that these other things are going to follow. I think we're going to see prototyping be a big topic. I think we're going to see testing be a big topic in the next year. So just a prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for us, testing has been kind of a big issue. We don't have a bunch of extra money out there that we could throw at just buying, all the latest and greatest devices that are out there. And so we've kind of had to use kind of a grassroots approach for testing. So we have a listserv that people can opt into that want to be mobile testers. And so as we're coming up with stuff that's on our staging and testing servers, we'll just send links around to that listserv. And then folks will be able to, bring it up on test on their devices, and they can, send screenshots and things back that they find to us or to anyone else that wants those folks to help test. We have kind of a mini device laboratory that we've been building up, but by no means can we cover, the predominance of devices that are out there.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about events in 2013. I'd love to hear from each of you what you're intending to present on next year. I know all of you are kind of on the .edu conference circuit, so if you're talking about mobile or responsive, would love to hear what you're thinking to present on. And I'd also love for, Brett, maybe you could mention UC's, talk a little bit about how they host an internal conference for mobile. And Erik, I'd love to hear from you about the mobile summit that Notre Dame does yearly. So just giving people a sense of upcoming events.
Sure. For us, you mentioned the UC Computing Conference. So basically, we have an annual conference where all the UC IT groups get together, and we rotate, which campus it's at each year. I think next year it's up at Riverside. So in any case, yeah, we get together and we talk about different topics, ranging all the way from web development down to cloud computing, and everything in between. And so, we did a presentation on responsive design and the mobile offering, and that's really from a grassroots perspective, as I was talking about earlier, this mobile web framework where we got the idea for it. We started talking to our colleagues at UCLA about some of the challenges that we were having in a distributed IT environment on trying to get people to use a common solution. And really, for us in the administrative computing group, we don't own all the data. We don't have all the data. There's other IT groups out there that have the data that we need to build kind of a consolidated mobile offering. And so this idea of basically pushing out the UI to these folks to do and host their own development was really kind of baked into just conversations and beers at a conference. So that definitely is something that we're continuing to look at for next year. The HigherEd Web Conference is a great conference. If anyone out there hasn't been, I recommend it. Next year it's in Buffalo, so I guess make sure you bring your parka. But yeah, I mean, in thinking about topics, gosh, I don't know, I haven't even thought about it. But I mean, those are, at least from my perspective, two of the conferences that I'm going to be hitting up. Oh, I guess I should. Yeah, I also just want to put in a plug for a HigherEd Web West conference that's coming up probably early next year. It's going to be in Orange County.
Okay,
Nice.
You mentioned the Notre Dame Mobile Conference. The next one will be March 22nd, if plans go well. And we do have a mobile conference twice a year. It's called Mobile Summit. It is open to anybody who wants to attend. And we talk about both native and web development in the mobile space and how it's, how people are using it to, teach and learn and all those different aspects. As far as a conference, my favorite conference every year is Breaking Development. If you are a developer who's interested in the mobile space, it is an absolute must that you attend one of these. They have, and traditionally they've had one every spring and fall, and this year they've added one, I believe, in San Diego in July, if I remember right, and then the fall one is in Nashville. That's the one I'm planning on attending this year. But it's an absolute fantastic conference. They get a lot of great speakers who cover a whole gamut of mobile topics, and it's absolutely fantastic. As far as speaking, I plan on continuing to talk about mobile performance, responsive performance, and just what I learned building sites at Notre Dame and how that might be able to help other people. And now Nick will plug HigherEd Web Michigan.
Yep, I will. Exactly. So there is HigherEd Web West, and there's also HigherEd Web Michigan if you're in the Midwest. It'll be on, May 20th and 21st, 2013, and we're still accepting proposals, and it's going to be 2 tracks, one kind of more marketing, non-technical, and one technical track. And so we could see, I think we have maybe 1 or 2 people who have said they're putting in a proposal for mobile talks, but definitely it's been on people's questions and things like that about what we're planning for the conference. So if you're looking for something to present on mobile or on anything really, submit a proposal. But I know that there will be some mobile discussions going on from different people around kind of the Michigan area. We've been looking forward to it. I think I'm probably going to as far as attend, I'm going to try to make it out to Notre Dame's mobile summit. I didn't even know that you did it, Erik, because you didn't tell too many people until just recently, eh? And,
I've tweeted about the past too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you would follow me on Twitter, maybe you'd know that.
Oh, maybe I should follow you. You sound pretty interesting.
I gotta. What is Twitter?
It's a fad.
Yeah.
Okay. I forget it.
But yeah, echoing the rest of the conferences that everyone else mentioned, I also kind of want to put in a plug for the Penn State Web Conference because it's a little smaller, and I enjoyed it the last few years, and I think it does kind of create some really good discussions in the higher ed space that are kind of, I don't want to say not as broad, but like being at a school, it kind of has a lot of people, and you get to talk to people about what their problems are, and they're very similar and very tactile. And so I enjoy the Penn State Web Conference a lot.
Yeah. Plus, it's pretty out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to it last year. That was a good conference.
Yeah.
It was a great one. I was there as well. I'd like to plug an event apart Seattle 2013. I am located in Seattle now. I'm working remotely for M. Stoner, and I went to it last year here in Seattle, and it is great. I think it is kind of a hallmark right now that you guys and a lot of people are really looking outside of higher ed for inspiration and looking to the bigger web community and participating in it and drawing great ideas from it. And I think that this conference is really the cream of the crop. So if anybody ends up coming out to Seattle, I will ask you to wear a vest like me, and I will ask you to grow a beard with me. And that goes for guys and girls. That's required since we're in the Pacific Northwest. But that conference is April 1, 2, and 3. The third day is a full day with Luke Wroblewski. So it's going to be great. Check it out. It's aneventapart.com, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, any event with Luke will be fun.
Right on. So let's see. We need to wrap up. And I guess since we have a couple of minutes, I wanted to invite any questions that the audience might have on Twitter. So you could tweet that with the HigherEdLive hashtag, or you could tweet to any of us individually. I'm at the Doug Co. We have at Nick DeNardis, at Brett C. Pollack, and at Erik Runyon, Erik with a K.
E. Runyon.
Oh, sorry, at E. Runyon. How did I not get that right?
If you follow me on Twitter.
Yeah. Apparently, no one is following Erik on Twitter. But if you're looking at this, you should see the HigherEdLive hashtag below. So we're on the lookout for questions from anything the audience might have.
Be careful. If you follow Erik on Twitter, he curses a lot. All right, I'll just warn you.
Not family friendly.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, I suppose another book that came out recently that's worth mentioning is Content Everywhere. I cannot pronounce her last name. It's like Sarah Wachter. Can anybody help me out there?
I think it's Wachter-Becker.
Yeah, that. I mean, it's a hard last name. But yeah, her book just came out. It's getting some great reviews. It's currently on my nightstand as my next read, so I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Good call.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not seeing any questions from the audience, so I have a public service announcement to make on behalf of HigherEdLive.
There's a question right there by Antonio. How do you make the web look better on a Retina display without compromising speed or too much compression?
Go for it. Take it.
Do it.
Okay.
It's all yours.
At Notre Dame, we make a big effort to support Retina displays, mainly because we all have iPhone 5s, iPad 3s, and the Retina MacBook Pros. So we like our stuff to look good on our stuff. So I mean, there's several different ways of doing it. For logos, we like to use SVGs when we can. And that can be both inline or background. You can do that. And then you just have to supply a fallback for any device that can't handle SVGs, but that's pretty easy with CSS to be able to do that. For a lot of the iconography, we use icon fonts. We've actually started building our own icon font that we include on things, and it's extremely small. It just includes things like our standard social media icons, feed icons, and anything else. And it also includes like our university mark. So those look great on Retina displays. Where you start having trouble is with photographs and images like that. You can, for background images, you can progressively enhance, increasingly use larger and larger, but you're going to be dealing with larger download sizes at that point. Another technique that has come out recently that we're trying on a couple of smaller sites is you take whatever the size image that you want to display on your site, say you're 800 pixels wide or something like that, and you essentially create a 1600 pixel wide image, but when you export it, you compress it at like 30%, something ridiculously low. And it may look bad when you're exporting it, or it may not look great, but when that image is scaled down to the size that it's supposed to be displayed, it will actually look really nice on Retina displays. And it's a juggling act. You have to test with it. The thing about that I would warn against is that if you take an image like that that's really large and compress it on a mobile phone, that's a lot of processing that has to go on to do that. But it's just one of the techniques out there that you can mess around with. But in most of our sites, we also have a media query for high resolution displays where we will sometimes swap out images here and there, background images with higher res versions just to make them look good. But with performance, it's a balancing act you have to really work at. That's it.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much to our guests, Nick, Brett, and Erik. You guys are great colleagues. I've learned a lot from you, and I can also say that all three of you are friends at this point. Hopefully you guys count me in the same category. But I think that's a benchmark of the higher ed community, is that it seems to be really closely knit, and a lot of it's very friendly, and a lot of people like to share. And I think that's one of the things I love about the higher ed community. So again, thanks to HigherEdLive, thanks to Seth Odell for letting me guest host, and the EduUniverse crew. And I want to make a quick announcement for schedule. Next week, HigherEdLive is off, so the network is taking a holiday vacation for actually 2 weeks. That's HigherEdLive, that's the Admissions Live show, and Student Affairs Live, and they're going to resume programming the week of January 7th. So January 7th will be the week where all three of the channels pick up again. So hopefully everybody has a great holiday break, and we'll see you all in 2013. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Doug.